And I do think policies that come out in the Trump administration are going to change some of the things, and it could be for better or for worse. Like to do this blanket statement that one party or one candidate is so much better and so much worse than the other, I don't think is super realistic. But I do think there's an impact that can be felt.
Welcome back to this Jess'd In. I'm here with my co-host, Elise Santani, and we're here with Bret Weinstein today, the owner of Guide Real Estate. He is a leader in the Denver market and nationally. A lot of media outlets go to Bret as the industry expert because of his lack of a filter and also just his extreme industry knowledge. I can't help but watch his market updates monthly. I enjoy them. He's got his kids on his lap. He's very real, authentic, telling us the truth about what's going on in the market. So, hey, Bret, what is going on in the market right now? Post-election, rates are going up. What are your thoughts? What's going to happen?
I'm so glad you asked. I have no idea. Next question. What's happening right now? It was really interesting because we talk about Trump being unbelievable for lowering rates, but a part of the reason that rates went up is because there's potential tariffs on the horizon. We already have a ton of inventory that's on the market. We know that buyer demand picked up substantially the second that interest rates dropped. Normally it takes people 2 to 3 weeks to recognize that rates have gone back up. That was not the case this time. We saw a quick rise in people that were buying and a quick drop. That quarter point drop from the Fed helped, but we're still up 5 bips. We're still up. It's not like the world's gotten better. So we're kind of in this now, let's call it a little bit more of a seasonal market than we normally would be. We thought that if rates kept going down, that the end of this year was going to be hot and heavy for buyers. And certainly if we hit 2025, depending on policies, depending on what happens, we could see a lot of inventory dropping off the market and there's a ton of suppressed buyer demand. And frankly, there's a lot of sellers who would really like to sell. But when you're looking in the mirror and seeing 7% and you've got 2.7 written down in your mirror as your current interest rate, you say, screw that.
Yeah.
And so we're heading to the end of the year. We're going to see people taking advantage of the higher rates, getting great deals, negotiating the hell out of it because there is so much inventory. As we hit 2025, if rates go down a bit, in Colorado in particular is so weird, but it's going to get crazy here. There's so many buyers, and we saw that. It went up, 4% month over month of equity because rates dropped.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, second, we saw a 5. If we hit a 5.5, buyers are going to go crazy. If we hit 4.5, sellers will start to list.
Agreed.
Unfortunately, buyer demand is going to come first, which means that's going to eat up inventory before we really start to see a lot of sellers. But we have so much inventory right now, there's deals to be had.
Yeah.
So my curiosity is on affordability, right? Because that's the number one problem that we have in Denver and nationally, right? So what is the solution to affordability?
Everyone should make more money. I guess vote for Trump. Isn't that kind of what happened here?
Do you think that Trump is good for real estate?
I think that if he passes tariffs, that raises inflation, Treasury, rates hate inflation. So if the tariffs truly get passed, and I don't know that they will.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, we talked about this a little bit, but Trump's a populist president.
Yeah.
And this is my opinion.
Yes.
I'm not factual on this, but the sense that I would have is that if passing tariffs is going to make him extremely unpopular and really raise inflation, I think Trump will pivot. So if he does do those tariffs, that would rise inflation and keep rates higher. If he doesn't, and he starts to push other policies that lower rates, then it could be really great. So I think we're going to have to kind of see how that really plays out.
Yeah.
But, it's so dependent upon what happens here. But we're doing all the speculation, and we've got 2 months left to go.
Yeah.
Like nothing's happening for the next 2 months.
Right.
We know that there's going to be at least one more Fed meeting between, probably another quarter point raise with the 2.6 inflation report. And then we'll see what happens in January. But right now we're kind of in this weird waiting pattern.
So back to affordability.
Oh, that's
wages
the
go
question.
up.
That's Jesus.
Wages go up. Interest rates go down or prices go down. It's one of the three, right?
Absolutely. All right. So affordability. Let's say that interest rates drop to 5.5%. Okay.
Yeah.
And we're going to treat it like it's 2022, 2020, where this market blows up. We saw double-digit appreciation. We're one of the 5 most expensive cities.
Yeah.
And the odds of us being able to afford double-digit appreciation is limiting unless we, again, have multiple transplants from other cities. But that work from home, work from wherever you want is kind of going away a bit. So you would expect that if we do see this market explode, that we're maybe not going to see as much. I think that there is a cap to inflation until the market really does catch up. When we're talking about 10, 11,000 homes on the market right now, we got to get rid of a lot of those. And we have to have people that can pay as prices go up. And transparently, I don't know that we can. So we could see a cap to appreciation, or it matches salaries. We're going up at 3% a year, 2% a year, and, unless we see this huge jump of 6% a year, and that, it could match salary to appreciation as opposed to what we've been doing. The hard part with Denver and Colorado in particular is we've kind of gone from like a town to a city. Mm-hmm. And everyone's like, oh my God, it's so much more expensive. No, we're kind of becoming a real city.
Yeah.
And it's tough to watch that if you've been here for the last 20 years. I mean, when I went to college, I'm a native. So when I went to college, Highlands didn't exist. We didn't go past 20. Like there wasn't anything. When I came back, they were like, there's this whole community. Highlands is crazy. And it's just, Denver does change quite a bit. It's just us being able to afford to pay. I think that there is a cap. I love people to say the prices are going to drop. Yeah, they will. If we stay at 7-8%, if rates go up and we keep this much inventory. I mean, we had 36,000 homes on the market in 2007 or 2008. And right now we're at 11. Our average is 14,500. We're still below our average. For our prices to really start to drop, we are going to need more inventory and less buyer demand. But we're heading to the end of the cycle. This is November. As we hit January, February, March, that's typically our buyer cycle every single year. So we're going to have to see how that plays out with the interest rates.
Yeah. But last spring, we didn't really have that cycle, I would argue. Maybe very early, like December, January.
I think we had it, I can remember distinctly it ending in March.
Yeah,
we started to see those,
odd.
We started to see the rates go up.
Yeah.
And buyers were a lot more reactive. And good on buyers and good on the educated public for paying attention and slowing down, because rates did go up. And I can remember we just hit a period where normally we go through April and even into May, it just stopped.
It did.
Yeah.
It slowed down substantially. But there was 2 great months. We saw appreciation and then rates go up. Suddenly people stop buying. And so that's going to kind of be the case here. There is a lot of uncertainty right now. But there is 2 pieces that are certain. People really want to buy a house right now. People really want to sell. Now we're talking about feasibility.
Yeah.
And it has to be feasible. And it's not necessarily feasible at 8% and an average price point of $750,000. That's my other favorite, though, is when people are like, well, in my day, I paid 16%. It's like, cool. Well, your house was $80,000.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but when you take 16% and put it to $80,000 versus $800,000,
Right.
it's a big difference.
Yeah.
Like it's substantially less affordable because of how much prices have gone up.
Right.
So I think that it'll cap at some point, and I think unless rates stay extremely high, and I don't necessarily see that happening under a Trump administration. I also would have said the same thing under a Harris administration. I don't necessarily see rates remaining super high just because it does have a huge impact. Commercial real estate got destroyed and could go right back to being destroyed. Residential real estate slows down, and those are 2 bedrocks of the economy for the U.S. So at some point, you do have to allow people to buy and sell homes. However, we're just going to have to see how it plays out.
You're busy.
Much?
No, it's great.
Okay.
You're busy now, right? With your personal production team. So you run your own personal production team.
I do.
In addition to running Guide Real Estate. So you're playing a leader role, a producer role, which is fun. I do that too. And it's you're running all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. But you're busy, which is exciting for me to hear because most agents I'm talking to are not. So what is your secret? Why are you busy?
It's my good looks.
Yeah, I think so too.
I was thinking that. I was like, you know what? It's 100% because of that. People see you, they see your social media. They're like, I'm just going to pretend that I want to buy a house so I can hang out with this guy.
I think that's it. I think, especially with this lighting, my white eyebrows really look like caterpillars.
You better watch. When you walk out of here, there's going to be
my
signs.
My fan base. No, why am I busy right now? It's because for 3 or 4 months, I knew this was coming.
Yeah.
You had to know that the market's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And what that does is that you now turn into what are the best strategies right now for a buyer, for a seller, for people that are looking to get into the market or looking to leave the market. And we've been discussing that with people for 3 to 4 months. It's really hard. If you asked me to find a new client tomorrow, I don't think I could do it.
Yeah.
I could call the world and see if someone's really ready. Real estate's planting seeds and letting them develop, which means that I've been talking to a ton of people for the last 3-4 months. As the market slowed down, as we had the NAR settlement, as we had all this panic and things going on, I just kept reaching out to people, touching base, seeing what they needed. And right now, as we hit the end of the year, we have a ton of inventory and we have a very minimal amount of buyers.
Yeah.
And so that means that for my buyers that are actively looking right now, they can get a great deal. They can get, a buy down. There's all sorts of options, and they're looking to refinance if and when rates go down.
Yeah.
For our sellers, it's tough.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. For right now, anybody who's selling typically has to sell.
So let me ask you this. You two are both in the same situation where you do personal production and you have a team and the market's shit. And you have people who I would imagine are freaking out. Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to pay my bills? Do I still work here? How are you navigating, really both of you, how are you navigating that of still focusing on your business while keeping your team feeling confident and prepared and ready to have these hard conversations?
You go first.
You're looking at me?
Yeah.
All right. So I do a class called Shift Happens.
Oh.
Similar to Shit Happens.
I'm surprised it's not just called
It's a play
Shit
on
Happens.
words.
It's because I'm so clever. No, but we do Shift Happens. And basically what that looks like is it's a strategy class. It's talking about what's happened today. We do it every other week.
Okay.
And we talk about what's going on within the market, talking about the elevator speeches, but really talking about strategies that make sense right now. Because in every tough time, there is a strategy for someone.
Yeah.
It just depends on who it's directed to.
Agreed.
And I'm not helping, I want to make it clear, I'm not helping a single person that doesn't want to buy and has their eyes wide open.
Okay.
I'm not helping a single person who doesn't want to sell and has their eyes wide open. I'm not tricking people.
Right.
It's just that we're having informed conversations. And so
Giving them good advice.
That's it. We want to talk through it, and we talk about worst case, best case, and it's their decision. And so with our team, that's one of those pieces is, if you stop working for 2 or 3 months during all the uncertainty, it's going to be hard to pick it back up. But now let's look to first quarter, second quarter of next year, because November and December is a hard time to really pick it back up. But at the same time, reaching out to everybody and just wishing them a happy Thanksgiving, it's, what is it, a dopamine rush every time you check off a box?
Yeah.
Right? So make a list of attainable goals.
Yeah.
And check that off. Check that shit off. Because you do get a dopamine rush. So even if it's not, I'm going to make $1 million tomorrow, I picked up my dry cleaning.
Yeah.
Check.
Yeah.
That's still something positive. And if you can then relate that to real estate, did I make 10 calls to people? Did I follow up with people? Did I do stuff? I can't promise that you can find a client tomorrow, but what I can say is that if you can give yourself those little check boxes and make sure that you're getting that dopamine rush, it builds into something.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm busy is because I made a list and I checked it off. It helps.
Yeah.
But it really does make a large scale difference for these agents or for people that are not, when you're into fear-based mindset, it's really hard to get out of it. So let's find little goals, little successes that you can do to build back up and get back into it. And lo and behold, a lot of these people find a client for next year.
Yeah.
Or find something. And there's suddenly this light in the tunnel where you're like, oh my God, it's not dark anymore. I can see.
Yeah.
And I think it really helps to motivate just knowing that your work does do something.
Yeah. Have you had people quit? Really? That's awesome.
Pretty fascinating.
That's really good because I feel like there's a lot of scared agents, especially if you're a newer agent. And it's easy to just say, this is not for me. I got to go somewhere else.
Our new agents are crushing. And I think that I actually think it's easier for a new agent with the right training, right education, right coaching. Because if you go in without the recognition of everything that's happening in the past, everything that may happen in the future, and you just do your job, it works.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something to be said for those of us who have been through a lot of cycles, that it's a lot easier to go down a deep, dark path.
Yeah.
But for these new agents, they don't have that. So it's just like, okay, I'll just do this.
Yeah.
And it works.
I think more seasoned agents are comparing COVID and being like, well, I did 50 transactions or I did, right? And it's like, you did, but, a lot of it was.
Yeah, you sold 15 cardboard boxes for $1 million. Congrats.
Yeah.
It's not that market.
Yeah, that was
exactly
real life.
So the newer agents don't have anything to compare it to. They just know they need to make calls and work and
That's
do the
it.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's my secret. My secret was I ignored everything and I just called and did the same things that I always do.
Yeah.
That was it.
Just
And
the basics.
That's just the basics. I stayed in touch with people.
Yeah.
I don't even view it as prospecting because it's people I like.
Yeah, you're
I'm
like
just hitting
being
up my
a friend.
friends.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, how you doing? What's up? And I don't talk about real estate unless people want to talk about real estate.
That's how it should be.
I'll do it here because you guys want to ask questions about real estate. But in my friends, I'm a lot more interested in their kids, their family, or when are we getting a drink?
Yeah, yeah. So I think that that's a reflection of your good leadership. You've had no one quit. You're helping kind of guide them through the storm, if you will.
So clever.
Shift happens. Okay, so you, I think, are doing a great job at this. What about, let's say you have a really big brokerage, right? What if you're the person who has a big brokerage, you have a ton of agents, and you're never there, and you're always out there on social media, and you're what do you think about that?
Well, I think we have a big brokerage.
Yeah.
So we do have that going.
No.
I'm
You
joking.
don't see that. You
I'm
don't see
joking. I
that.
understood what you were doing.
Yeah.
I took it and I ran with it. All right. So one of the pieces, and I told you I'm burnt out a little bit right now,
Yeah.
but I'm going to keep going. But I think there's something very, very important about someone who is in a leadership role still being in production.
Mm-hmm.
The NAR settlement is the easiest thing to point to, right?
Yeah.
It's great to do a bunch of social media. It's great to talk about all the changes, the impact, but our contracts have changed.
Yeah.
And the way to talk, communicate, work with clients has changed. And it's hard to really get a sense of exactly what is happening and how to best do things if you're not practicing.
Yeah.
So I'm certainly not going to shit on anybody here.
Yeah.
Like, I think that everyone can run it however they want to. My personal opinion is that I would rather be in the thick of it so that I can make quick changes, adjustments for myself, for our brokerage, to be able to effectively communicate. And I think that it's harder. It would be a lot harder for me to do if I wasn't directly involved.
Yeah.
But then you face burnout because it's very difficult to lead and to produce.
It is. And so the view right now is like, hey, listen, I thought I was going to be stopped November 1st. Thought I was going to slow down on the election. I'm still going, but we are going to hit Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. We are going to hit the holiday season. Our kids are never going to go to school again because it's the end of the year and it's stupid. But I'm going to take trips. I know that there'll be breaks, and it's just it's the same thing. I have to find that light at the end of the tunnel, and I don't need a long break. I just need a break.
Yeah.
But they're going to be forced on me no matter what I do.
Yeah.
The week of Thanksgiving, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
The week of Christmas, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like there might be a few calls and things, but it's a very much forced slowdown, and those pieces are the time to recuperate. And I don't do this for money. I don't do this because I think I'm going to make so much money. I do this because I want to have experiences with my family.
Yeah.
I want to do trips. I want to do fun things.
Yeah.
I do it because I believe that real estate should be better and that people should actually be trained and educated and good at what they do. And I think that if I am transparent, if I'm honest, if I have no filter, if I communicate effectively to people, that creates an opportunity for me to have those experiences that I really work for. Mm-hmm. And so like during those weeks, we'll go do an experience.
Yeah.
And that even 5 days with my family is enough for me to be like, oh, we're good.
You're like, okay, let's go. Who wants a house?
My kids are my girls are 8 and 6, so it's not like I'm in a spot right now where it's like, I hate you, Dad. We're great.
Yeah.
So like we're in a really good spot for us to just go. And so like taking advantage of those times is so much more important right now because you're right, there is so much burnout and it doesn't stop. So when it does, you sure as hell better be ready and able to take advantage of it. And that's where I've aimed myself. So like, I know that I'm going to be okay. I know that there's a light. I know that I'm going to have a time to reflect, relax. But for right now, I'm going to do my damn job.
So let's say there is a 5 next year for rates and the market picks up and we all know what that's going to be with the pent up demand. How are you going to manage that?
I'm going to hire agents for my team.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring a bunch of, whoever wants to come over to the brokerage, great. But for me personally.
For your personal production team? Yeah.
For my personal production team, as of right now, we're set up very effectively for the first quarter. And I don't need to do numbers or any of those pieces. We're set up very effectively for the first quarter. If rates drop into the 5s, I know personally I will not have the bandwidth. Mm-hmm. So it's about, I still need to be involved with everything. It's really important to me, which is maybe stupid, but I'm OCD with that. So whatever. But it's about making sure that I have great people that are helping to operate and make sure that we're getting the service that I would give to every single one of my clients. Mm-hmm. So, we'll hire. But like if rates go down that low, I would rather that they work with me than someone who doesn't have the same knowledge base. And not to, again, I don't want to shit on other agents because there's a lot of great agents. But if we look at agents as a whole,
there's a lot of shitty ones.
There's a NAR settlement, and it's not because everyone was doing their job and doing it so well.
Yeah.
So like, I'd rather that they work with people that are fantastic. So I want to make sure that if they're going to work with me, that they have a phenomenal experience. So I would hire. But I think that if we do hit those 5s, it's going to be crazy.
Well, and with the attrition in the industry, both on the agent side and the lender side, like the good professionals that are left that have sustained the storm are going to be extraordinarily busy. I
certainly think so.
Yeah.
I mean, when I got into the industry, I was 2012, I loved it because all of those other agents had left. The people that I worked with were experts. They were great at what they did. They would take me out to lunch after a great transaction to like a country club. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening? And I think that there is a value there where like, I don't mind the attrition, but I don't want it to be for everyone. I want it to be for people that just don't want to do this job or don't want to do it on the right level.
Yeah.
But I have no issues with that. And I do think that the people that are really good at this will be busier.
How much loyalty do you think an agent owes its brokerage? And when you're looking to hire, what are your thoughts on kind of poaching people from other brokerages? Is that fair game?
It's absolutely, I mean, poaching, I don't poach. We're all word of mouth. So if people want to have a conversation, they're more than welcome to.
Okay.
I think that loyalty, everyone's a 1099 contractor.
Yeah.
And certainly we can always say that the grass is greener somewhere else.
Right.
For us, when we're recruiting, there's just a couple of things. Number one, they have to be a great culture fit.
Yeah.
Number two, if they hate me, they shouldn't work with us because it's my personality. And so it is what it is. And number three, they can't be someone who can't get referrals. They cannot be a churn and burn agent. They have to be able to build a business on referrals. I don't care if people work leads or not. If you don't get referrals, you cannot come to our company because we educate, we train, we develop, but I want them to build this great business. So, I mean, it's not necessarily poaching. Instead, if people watch this or have a conversation and they decide that this is something they want to explore, happy to have the conversation. But I just want someone who's great. I want a culture fit.
Yeah.
Because we have a really great culture and I want to continue to build that. And that's more important to me than any of those other pieces. And as to loyalty, I think if you have a great culture, everyone really likes each other. You can be transparent and honest, have very real conversations. It creates loyalty, but I also don't have the expectation that, if someone wants to leave our company, I'm never upset with someone. I always want people to grow in their own way. I'm never going to burn a bridge with someone. So if they want to leave, they want to leave because they are a 1099 contractor. They should control their own destiny.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I'm going to say or do to force people. I just want to create the best environment, the most coaching, the most support that I can. And hopefully that is enough for them. And if it's not, they can always have a conversation. So
I think that the industry as a whole is craving leadership, both on the lending side and the real estate side. So I think it's very cool that you're working with your agents and showing them the things you're learning in the being in production. So you don't poach people from other brokerages, but you basically don't advertise, but basically you still recruit other.
Yeah, I mean, it's the majority, if not all of our recruiting is just word of mouth.
Cool.
Well,
People
in
reach
real
out.
estate, everyone's been at every brokerage.
Yep.
It seems like people are constantly moving around. I think it's impossible. And I don't know if this happens or not. I would imagine that it does, where someone comes knocking on your door, I want to come work for you. And you're like, you work for like my best buddy in the industry or something. Like, I mean, I'm sure that there's a little bit of awkwardness when situations like that happen. Like, have you ever?
Could care less.
Yeah.
Could care less.
See, that's awesome.
But it's the same both ways, right?
Yeah.
So if someone wanted to leave me to go to one of my best buddies, I'm not going to be like, oh, you monster.
Yeah.
You have to add as much value as possible
That's
so
it.
that they won't leave.
And we have a lot of people who have left and come back. Not a lot, but we have people that have left and come back.
I have so much respect for that because I think it's very easy to be like, I'm mad at you and, whatever. And I think that's good. I think that you're really self-aware that you can be like, well, they weren't getting what they wanted to get here,
Yeah, or please go explore.
Yeah. And I'll see you in a month.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the big pieces is like more often than not, there's this expectation that somehow switching brokerages, whether to us or to anyone, is going to change how you fundamentally do business.
Yeah.
What I can safely say is that if every single person put an hour on their calendar every single day, Monday through Friday, or came into the office 5 days a week, gave an hour, and committed to doing things that they actually like to do. Reach out, client events, whatever, writing letters. I've got terrible handwriting. It's not for me. But if anyone just did that, it doesn't matter about the tools. It doesn't matter about the technology. As long as you have expertise and you commit to doing that, your business will grow no matter where you are.
Yeah.
I think that any brokerage is supposed to be the backboard. It's supposed to be in the background. I don't love when brokerages are advertising themselves because in reality, no brokerage sells real estate.
Right.
The individual agents do. So I think the focus needs to be on the agents. But if any agent really just commits to doing those pieces, and that's where people don't succeed in this business. It's your own schedule. It's the same thing with lending. If you're not meeting people, talking to people, being in front of people, you get forgotten. Shockingly, it happens in real estate. As a realtor, like if you are not in front of people, you get forgotten. So being consistent and finding something that you actually can enjoy being consistent in, 5 days a week is enough.
Yeah, agreed. Can we talk about REcolorado?
You talk about whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, I want the scoop.
Yeah, so I want to know from your perspective, as it relates to REcolorado, there was a lot of drama around REcolorado this fall. Mm-hmm. Yep. So tell me about the leak of this data that they were being sold before the actual sale happened. Like, what happened?
Well, my understanding is that there was a violation of some NDAs. The information came out to the general public prior to when REcolorado and the
What
local
information?
realtor, that they were going to sell.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the realtor associations, it was a little bit prior to when they wanted to, communicate that.
Right.
And I think that, we can go down the road and really dig deep onto all the things. The biggest issue with all of this is that REcolorado, the associations, and again, my opinion. So if people hate this and hate me, just aim it at me, not anyone else. I think that they did a horrendous job of recovery and a really bad job of PR. I don't know if they talked to their PR staff and how they chose to communicate moving forward. I don't know that it needed to be this huge secret.
Yeah.
I know that there was a vote to decide if realtors could change the bylaws, and then an email was sent out the day before saying it doesn't matter what you vote. We can do this either way. I think that there was a lot of things that were not necessarily handled well. I think that this would have been a lot less of a big deal on the sale component if it was handled substantially better. Do you want me to talk about the
Yes.
next? All right, fine. So here we go. So private entities owning an MLS. So the reason for an MLS to be in existence at all is because it was a co-op, right? It's where agents put their commissions on and it was agreed.
And that was the sole purpose.
That was the sole purpose. And then the secondary purpose was it's a place where you can put something, it goes out through the IDX feed and feeds to every single other website so that as many people can see the property as possible.
So that's the secondary purpose.
That was the secondary. Well, the commission piece is gone. The co-op agreement's gone, courtesy of the NAR settlement. So now REcolorado, the MLSs in general, their function is to share information. So why is it of concern if it's a private entity who owns that? I mean, I again, we're going to use vaguer terms, but let's say that I was an owner of a title company and other title companies were trying to get information or certain companies were trying to get IDX feeds. It's gone from a sharing information website to a for-profit website. Not to say that they weren't trying to make a profit before, but certainly when it's a private investor who owns it, and this would be for any MLS, they have a lot more ownership of the data, how it's presented, how it's sent out. So could they, in a hypothetical, and I'm not saying that anyone is doing this, but could they, in a hypothetical, say, hey,
we own the data.
we own the data, and because you're you, we're going to charge you X times whatever, because there is no fair game here.
I want to go down this path because I'm very fascinated about this. So that is the fear, right? That they own the data now, and they even own your data. And
Yeah.
what was kind of funky about the REcolorado piece was that this agreement goes out that if you want to, it's a CDAP feed,
Yes, the
basically.
PDAP, yep.
If you want
A
to,
CDAP fee?
yeah,
PDAP.
feed.
The
Will
feed,
you,
yes.
Yeah, will you explain it?
We'll skip that piece. Here's
Okay.
the relevant thing is there's a
Okay.
participation agreement that was sent out. Previously, it was use. REcolorado or the MLS could use your data.
Yep.
That there's a participation agreement that says now that they're going to own that data, which means they have full control over it however the hell they want.
And they just send this agreement out.
And it was a week before a new CEO was named.
Yep.
It was during a transition period sale, right before the announcement of the sale comes out. This participation agreement comes out that says now we're going to own your data.
And I don't think a lot of people have been paying very, very close attention to this piece. But also, if you think about the NAR settlement, I want to figure out how this goes together. So you think about what happened with, was it potential, and maybe I'm being a conspiracy
I love it.
theorist.
Conspiracy away.
Yeah.
Get your foil hat
that
on.
there was someone that purposefully got rid of the compensation piece, basically to get to the data, so you can own the data. And now there's certain leaders of brokerages nationally that are trying to also get rid of clear cooperation so that you can own the listings, right? So is this a potential that this is all very purposefully being put together to own the data, own the listings?
I think that there certainly can be an argument. I can say that for right now, I know that REcolorado is working on that participation agreement to adjust it. So I can say that they're listening to feedback, but in the broad world, how people are going to control data and do things, I mean, clear cooperation is going to go away. It is. At some point, it's going to go away. And it's not just because the big brokerages. It's because within the NAR settlement, it's really hard to enforce clear cooperation.
But is that what's in the best interest of the consumer?
I mean, private exclusive listings where you're just advertising to one company, if a company controlled 50 to 60% of the market, then absolutely that could be at the best interest. Even though you're missing 30, 40%, half the market, there's enough people that are within that market. However, most of the time, and frankly, if someone was that large, it'd probably be like a monopoly issue. But that's, again, not here or there. I think that as far as best interest of the consumer, the best interest of the consumer is to have their house, if they're listing a house, on as many places
right. Which
as
clear
possible.
cooperation does not do.
No.
Yeah. So that maybe not is in the best.
I mean, clear cooperation says put it in the MLS. Let's just say that. Clear cooperation says if you're going to market a home,
I'm sorry. So if we get rid of clear cooperation, which there's certain
then you don't
people
have to put it in the MLS.
Right. So now that's not in the best interest of the consumer.
I think it is a very easy point to argue either way. I would lead on the side that it's not in the best interest of the consumer. But that's also keeping in mind that REcolorodo's sole and only function right now, as much as there may be conversations about what they can and can't do, is to share information. So if you're utilizing that site, you're using it to get to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And all these other places, Zillow, Redfin, Homes.com, Realtor.com, you name it, they don't have IDX feeds that share their information. Their information comes in and it gets created how they want it to look. That's it. So the place to share right now is the MLS. And of course, there are some new MLSs that are coming around. Whether or not they're going to take hold, who the hell knows? I mean, at the end, regardless of all this, we have, 16 MLSs in our state?
We do?
I
16?
think it's 13 or 16. There is hundreds and hundreds of MLSs. Okay, so let's just focus on that for a sec.
Yeah.
Okay, I go onto Zillow and I want to look at a home in Alabama.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah.
If I'm a real estate agent and I want to use an MLS, I have to sign up for that MLS or I have to go on Zillow.
I do think there's going to be like a consolidation of MLSs, and it's going to be like the wireless carriers like AT&T. I think that'll eventually happen nationally is my guess. Would you agree?
I would hope so, because all this infighting and having all these separate MLSs, because God knows we don't want an agent from here to go to there.
Right.
And be able to show a property in the mountains or wherever it may be. And again, not taking shots. Just want to be clear. But when we're talking about, oh my God, I hate Zillow. Oh, I hate Redfin. Oh, I hate Homes. I hate all these. The MLSs have individual MLSs that are sharing all their information with these national sites, but we're busy infighting about who should control the data within 2 different counties.
Yeah.
And like that in itself is a bigger issue. So now when we talk about private investors and people coming in and purchasing it, is there a possibility that they then create a national one? Possibly, but it's a hard pill to swallow, because the biggest value right now of all these MLSs is it shares data. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you want to buy them all and try and control the data, that's great. But like the lack of consolidation and the infighting is a really big issue with how we got here today.
So how does this impact smaller brokerages?
Exactly.
I mean, it's irrelevant for today.
Okay.
If my conspiracy theory is
your
correct,
conspiracy
that
theory-
would be bad for Guide.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make it. I'm fine. We're good.
Look at him. He never has to worry.
We pivot very effectively. No, I think for smaller brokerages, the biggest fear is that I'm not going to share my data with X site unless they pay triple, because they're a bigger user. And that
It's
site
the
goes
monetization
into,
of the
That's
data.
correct. If you start to monetize the data and how you control it, and suddenly my listing can't go onto several sites, or it's not shared with certain things that I used to be able to share it with, that can have a large scale impact if I don't have a database that I can share to. And people say, well, you only need to put it on a couple of sites. Sure. I can manually put it onto 4 or 5 sites, but it's going to be different on each site.
Yeah.
It's not from one centralized place. And in reality, I have 88% of people see photos in the listing online first.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that I'm reaching every one of those 88%. So I want it to go to as many sites as it possibly can, as opposed to having 5 independent listings that I put up. So when we talk about control and monetization of data, it is a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's not happening yet, but if it does start to happen, I think that would raise a lot of red flags, because again, if your only purpose right now truly is to share information, you're not sharing information, I think everyone would switch to a different service as quickly as possible.
Why did this even happen in the first place, though?
The NAR settlement statement. Settlement is what, back to my conspiracy theory, right? You get rid of compensation.
Yeah.
You get rid of the MLS. Somebody owns the data. They can own, like, if you get rid of clear cooperation, you own the listings. Like, could that be?
What's the argument against that, though? Because let's say, I believe what you're saying. I feel like that seems to make sense. But if someone was to tell you, no, that's totally, like, why did they decide to just dissolve all of this? Like, what was the purpose?
I'll go other side.
I'd love to hear.
I'll go other side. All right. NAR settlement was because we have crappy agents.
Okay.
There's plenty of states that did not have a buyer agency agreement. They never communicated effectively how they were working with someone. Creates a lawsuit, okay? So this is...
So you think it could be legitimately...
So I'm going to give you the legitimate. Let me give you the legitimate. All right. So NAR settlement comes through because validly sellers and buyers, there is legitimate complaints.
Yeah. Agreed.
Like the National Association of Realtors, to be a realtor, you take an ethics class that's a 4-hour open book test.
Yeah.
Forgive me, that doesn't seem to make people ethical. Like you pay money, you take a test, that's open book, you're in ethics and you're a realtor.
Yeah.
They could have increased standards substantially. They could have made people take a ton more classes, gotten a lot more education to become that, but they were worried about the bottom line.
Yeah.
And so they didn't do that. And so that puts you into a position where there are a lot of bad agents. There are people that aren't explaining correctly what they needed to explain. And so, all right, that's a valid reason for the lawsuit, okay? So now we're going to go into the privatization. The Justice Department just changed completely, so I don't know if the argument's as valid, but Justice Department then is coming, whether true or not, MLS has said that the Justice Department's going to start to really heavily focus on the MLSs. So if that's the case, and all of a sudden you could be in antitrust, you could be in all these issues, you might as well sell as quickly as possible to make as much money as possible, because if you become obsolete, you're making zero. Hence the reason for a sale. So can I provide logical steps as to the reason? Absolutely. I don't know that it's a large-scale conspiracy. I think that time will tell. But I can provide validity of why these things are happening. At the same time, like, there are so many things that can happen, especially right now, over these next year to 2 years in real estate, that could change the face of real estate. The privatization of the MLSs, whether or not the MLSs survive,
AI.
Owner of data, AI, you name it. There's 1,000 things. It doesn't knock out real estate agents.
I agree.
Because you still need someone
Not
to
all of them.
negotiate.
Yeah,
no, not
it
all
knocks
of them.
out the
But
bad
you
ones.
still want to negotiate. You still need to be an expert about houses and making sure, because AI, as good as it is, doesn't really ask the right questions at this point to make sure that someone is really forward thinking, understanding the appreciation, all those things. There still is absolutely a reason for real estate agents, and I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. But the way that we practice and what tools we use could absolutely change very shortly.
Agreed. What do you think Zillow's play is?
Keep going.
Yeah.
They're probably having a great time.
They are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Zillow's, the downside with the NAR settlement is that if you utilize, and hopefully everyone does, but I'm well aware most people don't, the buyer brokerage compensation disclosure, which basically you meet someone at the door, you say, here's this form, please sign it. It says that I will be your transaction coordinator, at least for Colorado, and you'll need to pay me 3%. If you like it, unless they're not paying 3%, then we can have a conversation. If you start any meeting like that,
You're out.
you're probably not going to work with that client.
Right.
If interest rates drop substantially.
So this is Zillow's agreement?
This is just the new
the
NAR
way-
settlement
okay,
across the
right.
nation for real estate agents. However, it's supposed to be babysat by the local realtor associations and the MLS, who have no bandwidth to do this. But that's, unless people complain, they're probably not going to hear a lot about it. But we start there, all right?
Yeah.
So that's an issue. I don't know how many people are using it or not. They're all supposed to. Not my job to audit.
Is your brokerage using it?
Of course.
Okay.
Don't ask me questions that I'm. All right, but so it's it's required, but it's not required by law because it's a settlement, not a legal contract.
Got it.
Okay. So if you get caught, that's on you. So I can't control every moment of every door meet.
Agreed.
Okay. So second, all of these places, none of them are successful in list side, getting a lot of listings. Like listing leads are really hard. Zillow has tried, Realtor, like they've all tried. They just haven't been able to figure out the secret sauce.
Yeah.
Because most people have already worked with a realtor. They already have a lot of connections. They bought a house. Typically, it's a lot easier to work with buyers. So let's paint this picture. Buyers, rates drop substantially. There's a shit ton of buyers. There's not enough inventory. If you're a seller, as of right now, there's 11,000 homes. What are sellers doing? They're offering compensation. Because you don't want to be the one person of the 7 on the block that's like, fuck you, we're not going to give you anything. Sorry, I did use profanity. Sorry, Mom.
It's okay. I feel much more comfortable
I
now.
apologize. I think I've already used it a couple times. All right, but rates drop. There's a ton of buyer demand. What starts to go away?
The
Yeah.
compensation.
The compensation, because I don't need to offer as much. So now I'm having to work with the buyer to get it. If I'm Zillow, if I'm some of these large scale companies that are making money off of how much the commission is or the compensation, and the compensation starts to compress because sellers don't feel a need to offer it, and buyers aren't paying it all, that could really have a pretty heavy bottom line for Zillow. Because at the end of the day, they are reliant upon compensation. And if buyers agents across the board start to make less money, are they going to be as willing to spend on lead platforms? Are they going to be as comfortable with paying as much money as they have to some of these places? And are the companies going to be comfortable if they can't get a full commission because there's no guarantees?
Well, that's
Yeah.
my question. You guys don't participate in Zillow, correct? That guide? Okay.
I mean, we
So-
have people, neither here nor there. Keep
Okay.
going, yeah.
But you have, I know, colleagues in the industry that you know well that a big portion of their business is Zillow, or becoming the majority of their business
Yep.
is Zillow, right? And the business is changing so much, right? And they're taking so much of money. How can you, as a team leader, have a profitable business and pay Zillow 40% and have splits? That's
Well-
the part. And then you go through commission compression on top of that.
Yeah,
How does that
so
all work?
All the other pieces you can make work.
Yeah.
Commission compression, I think, is you're going to have to figure out a way to pivot.
So that you're saying that business model will not work when we go through extreme commission compression.
I would strongly argue that it's going to be substantially more difficult. I think that people are going to have to pivot and find a solution. I'm not saying that the model won't work, but if I'm just looking at it objectively and saying, okay, right now you're getting this much money.
Right.
If that becomes a lot less and you're still having to pay this company and they're starting to make a lot less, do they raise their prices? Do they adjust how they're doing things? How do you rearrange your stuff? Because if our average goes from 2.5 to 1.5, that's a really big difference for these teams. It's a really big difference for Zillow. So it turns into a pivot. And of my friends that are in this industry that built a lot of their business around that, I have full faith that they'll figure out an effective way to pivot.
What advice would you give them?
You can call me. I'll fix your lives. I mean, when you say that the majority of business is coming from Zillow, that kills me.
Yeah.
I know
Because-
several team leads
No,
that's what's kept them alive.
I understand what I would beg them to focus on. And I know some of them are already very much doing this, but I would beg all of them to do so, is to heavily focus on client retention and referrals. Because at some point, if you work with, and listen, I started in this industry and I worked with Zillow, Homes, Realtor. I worked with every lead source.
Yeah.
Because transparently, it was 2012. None of my friends and family were like, oh, good, a new realtor. Let's use him. So it took a couple of years.
Yeah.
But I was doing 60, 100 deals a year.
Jesus.
And I was using lead sources to do it. So then lo and behold, I'm still doing 60 to 100 deals a year. And I stopped using lead sources.
Yeah.
Because I built a referral base. My whole thing was I will work with anyone, anywhere for any price point because I know that if I do this right, it will build.
Right.
And 5,000 people in my database later, it did. And I'm getting a lot of referrals. So their focus needs to not only be on the initial conversion, and this is why Zillow Flex is so hard. You have to get a hold of them immediately. You have to transfer them to Zillow Home Loans. Doesn't mean they have to use it, but you have to get them in front of Zillow Home Loans.
You
because
have to
otherwise-
put notes in the CRM.
You have to put notes. So all those pieces, and if you're really busy with that, that's great.
That's your whole life.
But
you can't build a sphere-based business
if you're not
doing
able,
all of
that's
that.
exactly it. So if you're not able to transition that into continuing to build your business, you're going to struggle.
Well, that's why Zillow's so smart, because they're basically building an army of people that they're keeping so busy doing all these things at a reduced compensation, and then they need it to survive. And so then what if they unplug, your business is out of business.
Right. So these team leads should be hiring a client relations person or doing
They
stuff.
don't have the money to do it because Zillow's taking all their profit.
Then they should adjust and figure out better solutions. They've all got whiteboards. They can write some stuff up on there. There's so many ways to pivot and to figure out. And even if it's that team lead who is not working the leads, calling every single client and
Yeah.
touching base,
Yeah.
so be it. But you got to figure out a way to turn that business not just into leads, but into referrals.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you build a much bigger business.
Yeah.
But it takes time, it takes effort, it takes energy. And also those people that are focused on just Zillow leads aren't necessary. And this is what I said. I don't want to take anyone at my company that cannot get referrals, even if it's because you didn't have enough time.
I love that about because there's a lot of people doing Zillow right now that are great agents and they're doing a ton of transactions and they're tired and they don't know how to build a sphere-based
That's
business.
it.
So, but if they come to you and say, hey, Bret, I want out of my current environment because I'm exhausted. I'm not making any money. I've closed a ton of transactions, but I want to learn how to build a sphere-based business. Would you take them?
Of course.
So even if they don't currently have referrals?
That's because it becomes a conversation of what are you looking to do and how do you want to do it? And if you can come in and clearly enunciate that you are looking to build a referral-based business because you've been unable to do so in the past, I have every single tool. Our company hosts 5 events a year that you can invite your clientele to, which gives you an excuse to reach out to people 7 to 10 times and build a referral business. And that's on my dime. That's not on theirs. Plus all the other things that we can do. It really does make a large-scale difference into doing that. But, I mean, you, even as busy as you might be with Zillow, could the company still host a happy hour for their clients? Could they still host a seminar with you where it talks about when should you refinance? Can you find value adds that would still help to build that? But your bigger concern is your agent good enough? It's great that they got the transaction closed. It's great that they're a good agent. Are they good enough to have built a lasting relationship? Because if the answer is no, they're a salesperson. And if there's a salesperson, you're right. The second it's unplugged, they're out of this industry. If they can't be trained to pivot, if they can't figure out how to not just be a salesperson, when you're helping someone buy a house, it's not a sales job. You're a concierge. If you're walking into a house saying, oh my God, this is the one, guys. Look at all the light. Oh, you got to buy it. And you're not saying, well, that's a structural crack. You're going to live here for a year because if you guys have a kid, you're screwed. If you're not helping someone to see.
Giving good advice.
We're not selling someone on a house. And if you are, you're doing it wrong.
Agreed.
Because you shouldn't be telling someone to buy the house. You should be figuring out their needs, communicating effectively of what their needs are, seeing that it matches the house, making sure that the house there's nothing with it. And then, when I say, guys, I don't really have anything that I can see or say that would suggest that you shouldn't make an offer. That's you should buy the house. I will never say you should buy this house.
And that goes on in lending. I want to talk about it for a minute because we were talking about this at the beginning. So people need to refinance right now because they've got 3-2-1s and 2-1s expiring, right? And so people are facing these higher payments when this expiration of the subsidy program is coming up. And they're like, I'm going to refinance. There's lenders out there that if it does cost $25,000, they are saying, do this. Like your payment goes down $300 a month. You should do this. And maybe the payment does go down that much, but you add $25,000 to the balance of their loan and they're going to refinance again, most likely in the not too distant future. That's not good advice. But lenders are starving. So they're going to give that advice.
Wait, lenders give bad advice?
Yeah. Just like on the real estate side.
Oh my God. What world? All right, so I'll make the argument for and against. Okay. So most 3-2-1 buy downs started in 2021, right? We didn't really see as many in 2020. So 2021, 2022?
22. We didn't have any.
All right, fine, 2022.
Yeah.
So if we do a 3-2-1 buy down, you've gone through the 2 years, which means you have 1 year remaining, which means you still have that cash that's technically sitting aside from the 3-2 buy down that would have been utilized to buy down your rate for the third year. And you're going to run out of that cash, and maybe that's going to help offset you for a refinance. Maybe it's worth it. But if you pay $25,000 right now and then refinance again in 6 months,
you're a fool.
You're not a fool because some lender is telling you that it's the greatest thing ever, and they're presenting all these numbers. And
it's because the lenders don't have business because real estate agents don't have buyers.
I think that there's a valid argument to be able to refinance right now. I think there is. If you have a large subsidy left in your 3-2-1 and you can use that to offset your refi.
And your rate is 8.
And your rate is 8, fine.
Yes.
But I have a hard time telling someone if you miss that little drop in the rates that you should refinance right now.
Well, and that's what we're telling people is here's what happened in early September, right? You need to be ready. So you need to kind of identify what is your strike rate? What is that rate that you're going to lock your loan at? So that we can have all your paperwork and everything ready to go. Because 70% of originators have left it's like there's so much attrition from both operational staff, sales staff, it's going to be chaotic when rates fall.
It is. And then everyone's going to be hiring and it's going to be a shit show.
It is.
Can't wait. It's
It
going to be
is.
really exciting. But I mean, you can make an argument to refi, but I think it's a hard argument. And I think that it's not that people are idiots. It's just when you get presented all these numbers and all this stuff, like in the mail, I get something that says I can save $15,000 a year on my insurance. Is it worth me exploring it? Sure. Do
Is
I
it legit?
recognize that?
No.
Yeah.
Do I recognize that that means that if my roof goes down, I'm paying $50,000? Probably not.
Yeah.
So there is a component of education that's lacking, and I think it also turns back into the same conversation about real estate agents. If one of my people is going to refinance, they'll call me and we'll have a conversation.
That is amazing because I have been hearing so many stories about that exact situation where the client is not calling the real estate
And
agent.
that's what I'm saying.
Because they have no relationship with
Yep.
them and they're a shitty agent
Yeah,
and
the
they
agent's
sell the
not
house and
calling
they're like,
their
bye.
client.
Right.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And so that's the thing is that I can't stop a shitty lender from trying to take advantage of my client.
Yeah.
Right.
But if
You
they
can
call
warn
me,
them.
but if they
You
call
can
me,
warn them.
No, but if they call me, we're good.
Yeah.
So I want to have that relationship, which again,
But you have to
I
call
get-
them to keep in touch, you know?
yeah, I call them, but I also, God, why do I get referrals? It's because my clients are willing to call me.
Right.
And because I'm calling them and connecting with them.
Yes.
Because PMI,
Okay.
right? You bought a home in 2020. If you still have PMI and your
There's a
agent
problem.
hasn't called you to say, contact your lender, you've passed the threshold, you need to have that removed.
Yeah.
That's a huge issue.
Yeah.
But if you don't care about your clients and you're just there for the next deal, your client's going to get ripped off. They're not going to use you again. Shit's going to happen and it sucks.
So in times like these, when it's slow and the rates are high, an agent should be going through all of their past clients.
Go through every single
Everyone.
person. You have your in Realist. You can look up how much they put down.
Yeah.
You can go through all these
Yeah.
different scenarios, and you can call every single client, run a quick comp on them.
Yep.
Listen,
It's time to
it's
drop
a,
your
it's a
MI.
pain in the ass for people that are high quality or not high quality, high quantity agents.
Yeah.
But for most agents, if you did 6 transactions a year, which is the average,
Yeah.
that's 24 people that you need to call.
And that's so valuable. Like
And it's
people
night and
will
day.
love that.
Absolutely.
You're saving them money.
And so many consumers need help right now, and saying I need help is such a hard thing to say.
Of
So if
course.
you call and you're like, how are you doing? Like, how's that mortgage? Like, how's the, and you know the subsidy's expiring, or they have MI, or whatever the circumstances are, talking to them and having them tell you, I need help with this.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'm not in good financial shape, because there's a lot of that going on right now, too.
Absolutely is. And I love lenders that are communicative for years afterwards. There's not a ton of lenders that are going to call someone to say, hey, your PMI can be removed. Because it's about comping the house. It's about double checking everything. Like, it just doesn't happen. So if the agent isn't doing it, you could have someone who's paying an extra $170, $200 a month for nothing.
Unnecessarily.
For nothing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it makes me die. Because,
Yeah.
like, what is our job? It's not just to help someone buy a house. It's to, like, oh, my goal is to make sure home ownership is attainable for everyone. Go fuck yourself. Like, are you serious? That's not it.
Right.
It's attainable, it's affordable, and it's long lasting. So if you're telling me that home ownership is attainable for everyone, so is foreclosure. So maybe do a better job.
Yeah.
Because it's not just the buying. It's everything that comes after. You should be their resource. And I hate when people aren't, because it's not everyone else's job to do that. It's
Right.
yours. So, and if you just focus on things like that, you build a business. Who knew? Shocker.
There you go. You don't have to depend on Zillow anymore.
No.
You have a client for life.
Well, I mean, Zillow, it's hard because there's so many leads that are coming through that stuff. It's hard. But you do have to have that recognition that if commissions compress, things could change. And if you're not prepping at least a little bit right now,
That's a problem.
Yeah.
probably an issue.
It's a problem.
I mean, less rates stay high for forever, and then great, congrats. Things are going to suck anyway.
Do you have buyers, people that bought in 2022 that want to sell, and you're looking at the numbers and you're saying you can't sell right now? Are you running up against that?
No.
No. Okay.
Damn it, dude. Come on. When we helped buyers buy, we didn't do it with the anticipation that we were going to see 10% appreciation every year.
yeah.
There was multiple conversations about this needs to be at least a 3 to 5 year
Yeah.
home. Here's where your value could be. Here's what happens if we stay stagnant. So of course, are there people that would like to sell? Yeah, but right now, I think more of the conversation is now the right time? November, December? Absolutely not. I think we have 16 listings for next year, and we're going to wait until we feel like it's the right time to put them on the market. I love being strategic and planning in advance. I hate I have to sell.
Yeah.
I hate it because it takes a lot.
It
we're
does.
going to market the hell out of it. We're going to do everything that we can. We are 2 weeks away from Thanksgiving. Sorry if people are watching this later and it's Thanksgiving, but we're 2 weeks away from Thanksgiving. If you call me right now and say, I have to sell a house, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to sell it for you. But is this my favorite time to try and sell a house? Of course not. Would I rather have a strategy in mind? Absolutely. So it's not to say that we're perfect and that everything is great, but we really do try to take care of the clients and make sure that we have at least a realistic strategy. But we've been saying that for the last few years is hey, you're going to get married. If you have a kid, this house is not going to work. Mm-hmm. You might have to be here for 5 years. I hate to ask inappropriate questions, but do you think you might have a kid in the next 5 years? Because if so, maybe let's look at something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That worst comes to worst, you could wait it out. And the majority of our clients are in a house that if worst came to worst, they could wait it out.
Yeah.
What is that listing strategy? So I call you and I'm like, is this a good time to sell? And I don't have to sell. What's your advice to me?
I'm not going to give you shit until I look some stuff up.
Okay.
So first I'm going to look up to see how many homes are active around you.
Okay.
And I'm going to see how many are pending. If every single home is active around you, I'm going to say, great, we'll set up a search around your house and I'm going to watch your house. And I'll tell you when it's the right time.
Okay.
How many homes is too many in the same neighborhood to be for sale at the same time?
No, there's places where we have 12 listings that are active. Not a single one's gone pending.
Okay.
And everything else is closed, which means that in the last 30 days, jack shit has happened.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Your answer is
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
But if I have 5 pendings, 3 actives, because it's always neighborhood by neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But if I find something like that, I have real data to say, here's what the pendings have done. But ideally, would I still like to wait till next year? Of course I would, because we lose so many showings during this time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
they pick back up. So even though I know I could sell your house right now today, if we wait till the new year and everyone's back from their winter breaks, their kids being out of school for 17 years, all those pieces, it's probably going to have a lot more people in the market that can actually buy your house, which means I can get you a better price. So we're going to analyze those pieces. Again, it really depends on not just what's happening today, but what your goals are. If you want to buy, how do we want to do this? How do we want to set it up? So it's a lot longer of a conversation than just, let's go for it.
Yeah. Are you suggesting people try to be contingent right now because of the market? If they have to.
Yeah, if they want to, go for
Yeah.
it.
But
If we can avoid a bridge loan, sure. But I
Yeah.
also don't mind someone buying right now, finding a way to,
Keep both
keep both
houses.
houses and then sell the other one in February.
Got it. I don't mind that strategy either.
As long as they can afford it and they know the numbers and they understand it.
And they have
understand,
cash.
And they have cash and they understand that in their worst case, it could be an extra X amount.
Right.
But if I can negotiate the hell out of a house right now, and even if we do not great on their sale, they're still going to come out ahead.
Yeah.
Right now, I can negotiate real hard.
Yeah. It is. I tell people you can win in both markets, right? Because you can win now and then ideally sell your house at a better time.
Yeah. So Andrew Abrams, my buddy, I think one of the things that he says that is so correct is it's so hard to predict the market. And frankly, it's almost impossible that if you're going to sell high, that you're going to buy low.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. So more often than not, it's
You're
buy
gonna
low,
lose.
sell low.
Yeah.
Buy high, sell high.
Yeah.
And so, could it be that we have the situation where I can negotiate the hell out of it right now, and then hopefully in February it's really
Yeah.
good? Yeah, there certainly could be a chance that we can buy low, sell medium, but it's
Yeah.
really dependent upon rates. However, it's going to be a better market in January, February, March than it is today.
Yeah.
So if I can wait, even if it's not going to be the perfect storm, I would prefer to wait because I think they can do better.
Are you getting calls from people that are hurting financially that need to sell because of those circumstances?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you seeing it more? Do you think
No,
there's...
I've had 1 or 2 calls and
Okay.
we work through solutions.
Okay. How about job loss? Are you seeing some of that?
Not a ton.
Okay.
Not a ton.
Okay. So you think the economy's pretty strong from
Do I
what you're...
think that the economy's strong because I said I don't know people that have called me for job loss?
Yeah, I wonder if...
I mean, that's a jump, right?
Well-
Just because I haven't gotten a call. What if I had gotten 1 call? I'd be like, oh, God, it's going to fall apart.
Well, I feel like once the economy really makes a shift and we feel like we're on the brink of a recession, that you would know it because you're talking to so many people. You're saying such...
I hear you. Yes.
Right.
So I think that the economy is in a better shape than what a lot of people think that it is right now.
Okay.
I think that, with our inflation dropping, with our jobs reports, there certainly is some sketchiness with what's going on right now with jobs in particular. I think it's really hard to analyze that in November and December because it's so seasonal right now. But I think that by February, March,
We'll have a better idea.
We'll have a much better idea. It's just like seasonal hiring makes such a big difference
Yeah.
during this timeline. So how accurate are the numbers going to be if people are staffing up? But I mean,
the
overall,
inflation data is not really accurate too. Because
no, it's
the way
not.
that
It gets
they do
adjusted
it.
all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing is like there's mixed signals. I think the economy overall is a little bit better than people think.
Yeah.
I think it was heading in a better direction than a lot of people gave it credit for. Doesn't mean that it can't be so much better than it is. And I think that's why people voted for Trump. Because I think that there is a lot of room for improvement. And I don't think that that's a debatable fact.
Yeah.
Like there is room for improvement. Who the fuck knows what was going to happen either way.
Yeah.
So I think the economy is better than we thought it was going to be. But I don't think that it's like, this is, oh my God, we made it. There's a no landing or a soft landing. I don't think that we can call that yet.
Yeah.
I do think policies that come out in the Trump administration are going to change some of the things, and it could be for better or for worse. Like to do this blanket statement that one party or one candidate is so much better and so much worse than the other, I don't think is super realistic. But I do think there's an impact that can be felt.
Yeah.
But there's pros and cons for everybody. And again, if the tariffs pass, I've got some concerns.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I'm great.
Yeah. I think maybe it's because I run credit reports for a living. Like I'm seeing Americans in debt. Like a lot of Americans are in debt.
I don't disagree. I think that we've also seen that over the last 2 to 3 years that this is the highest debt, highest credit card debt, highest car debt, all those pieces that Americans have had. We really saw that blowback from all the free money that was given out during COVID, and everyone spent it all, and we do have a substantial amount more debt. The hope here is that over the next while that it starts to turn around. We do know that there's people who are saving more money than they ever have right now for fear of going into more debt. But I certainly wouldn't say, like, for someone who's running credit reports, I think that that is an absolute valid statement of a segment of the market. I think it's probably a broad segment of the market. So
Yeah.
I think it's a fair statement.
Yeah.
I just think that it's a little better than we're giving it credit for. I'm not saying it's perfect.
Brett,
my
where
God,
can
it's
people
so
find
funny.
you?
Where can people find me?
Yeah.
I am available in most grocery stores.
Are you on the carts?
I am on the carts. I am also in the pharmaceutical department of Walgreens. No, people can find me. What do you want? Like my website? I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. How should
Hi,
people?
I'm Brett. If you would like to get a hold of me, my phone number is 303-981-1237. Hopefully that flashes at the bottom of the screen. If you'd like to email me, it's Brett, B-R-E-T, at guide, GUIDERE.com, or you can go to www.guidere.com, click on my profile, subscribe. I don't know if you can subscribe, but you can contact me through that. I've heard my kids watch a lot of YouTube, so they say, like, click the link and subscribe. I don't know how to do that. Should they
I
click
do
the
have
link
one
and
more burning
subscribe for
question.
here?
Yes.
Oh,
do
God,
it.
click the link and subscribe here.
I have one question.
What's up?
Do you have a PR person, or is all of your media exposure
I have a
organic?
PR person.
Okay, you do.
I have a
How long
PR
have you been
person.
focusing on that? I'm curious.
Focusing is a great question. Never. But I have a PR person. I think I've had her for 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
And it started with just kind of a few things, which was great. And it's really built into a lot more. And now I'm fortunate enough that I get requested and people reach
That's
out
cool.
to me
So
directly.
it's become organic
It's
over
become
time.
an organic
That's
piece.
cool.
So
That's cool. That's
yeah, but I absolutely, one of the biggest things for me is education of
Yeah.
agents and making sure that people actually have a realistic understanding of what's going on in the market.
Right.
And I'd love to tell you that it's super easy to do so, but I think that, and I don't want it to sound egotistical, even though it's going to. Like, I just want to be able to have a voice and be able
Yeah.
to say things that I believe in as many ways as I can. And so that was a reason for it. I would love to say that I really care about the accolades or any of those pieces. I don't.
Yeah.
I just think it's important. There's times when talking
You
about
want
the
good
MLS
data
or
to
talking
be out-
about some of
yeah.
these pieces where I read all this stuff and the media can be horrendous. So like for me, I prefer live
Yeah.
interviews.
Yeah.
I prefer it to be like stuff where it's not the person taking my words and then twisting them to their story. So whenever I can do like live interviews on the news or wherever, I'm in, because
That's cool.
that's where you get to say like your piece, and it's really important. And I wish that a lot of very educated and wonderful agents would do that, because I think that it's a benefit to the public. And I love that I'm a voice, and I think it's great, but I think there's a lot of incredible people that have a great voice too that should utilize it more.
Thanks for being with us today.
Oh, it's
We
my
sure
pleasure.
appreciate it.
Loved it.
Yeah.